Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Mr. Chu here. You can call me Teacher Mini. Good evening. Right. Today's session will be sharing about chemistry or combined chemistry. Okay, on to what to expect, for the upcoming O-level exam or basically just Sec 3 chemistry. Okay, can I just have a show of hands, like how many of you are in Sec 3? You can just raise your virtual hand. Okay. Maybe have a show of hand, how many of you are in Sec 4? Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, so I'll be sharing. Okay, last question. How many of you are in combined science? Can I know? Okay, Hong Yi. Okay, great. So most of you are in pure science. Okay, we'll be covering both pure and combined. Okay, all right. Now, so let me share the screen. Okay, but anyway, before that, hold on, Yeah. So anyway, before that, let me introduce myself first. I am teacher Ming Yi. Okay, I'm the head of science in my strategy, and I also teach chemistry and also combined science. Okay, so if you see me around in my strategy classes, yeah, just say hi to me. Okay, right. So without further ado, let me share the slides. Hold on. Okay, now, so what I'll be covering today, section is for chemistry, be it pure chemistry or combined chemistry. Okay, all the information will be here. So later you have any question, just feel free to put in the chat, put in the Q&A. Okay, I'll be answering your questions. Okay, now, so these are the few things that we will cover. The format of the paper, you must know what is coming up for your exams, for O-level exams. Okay, and of course, if let's say anyone is IP here, is anyone IP in this session? If you are in IP, can you raise your hand? Okay, so I guess nobody, Okay, but anyway, so even if you're IP, most of these will still apply to you. Maybe just not the exam format because the schools don't follow exactly what is required for the O-level exam. Okay, but since most of you are in O-level for going for O-level exams, okay, then all this will apply to you. All right, so we'll be going through the syllabus, what are the topics, and we'll look at some of the MS material and how they can help you. We'll let you know when are our assessments and what are the strategies to do well for chemistry. Okay, now, so first, the format of the paper. Now, for pure chemistry, the code is 6092. Okay, so you have paper 1, 2, and 3. Now, paper 1 and 2 are the theory paper, and paper 3 will be the practical. Okay, so if you are not so familiar with the syllabus, okay, of course, you can always just Google that, or you can just scan this QR code, and you should be able to access that. Okay, now, for paper one and paper two, okay, these are the standard ones, multiple choice, structured questions, and free response question. So look at their weightage. Practical itself is 20%, okay, and for theory wise, 30 and 50% respectively for multiple choice and structured and free response questions. Okay, now for my stretcher, now we can't really do the actual hands-on activity, hands-on practical revision. Okay, but remember for your practical exam for O levels, it is not just doing the hands-on. Okay, the theory part of the practicals are very important. What do I mean by practical? What do I mean by the theory part? Is the skills. The skills to do data recording, the skills to do data manipulation, and drawing of your graphs, and your QA, how do you write down your observation? All those are also very important. Okay, so doing the experiment itself is only a small portion of your total score for the practical. Okay, all your theory part of the practical are also very important, and later I'll go through some of that part. Okay, we will not go through in detail. We're not going through questions today. Okay, so we are giving you a briefing on what is to be expected in the upcoming year. Okay, for this year. So this is for pure chemistry. Now, if let's say you are combined science, and this is your paper. Okay, so if let's say you're taking physics, physics is paper two. Okay, and if you have biology, then you take that will be paper four. Okay, chemistry will be paper three and paper one. Okay, paper one is the MCQ lah. Okay, which includes both the chemistry and the other subject. Okay, the other science. Okay, and practical is paper five. So for combined science, practical is about 15%. Okay, so this is just for you to know. Again, you can check out all the syllabus online. Okay, they are all provided. Okay, right. So now do take note, especially for those actually for everyone anyway, because especially the Sec 4 now. Okay, you probably or eventually soon you will be getting your TYS 10-year series from either Popular or your school will give it to you or sell it to you. Not sure. Okay. Here are some things that you must know, right? Because there has been syllabus change over the years, and you have 10 years of papers in that 10-year series, right? So there are some things that has been changed. So from 2024 onwards, okay, some of the things have changed. Essentially, what you need to look at is huh? What you need to look at is the biofuel part. Okay? Hold on. Because some of these are extracted from the syllabus documents, okay, but not all of them are major changes. So I'll just highlight to you what are the major ones that will affect a lot of you. Okay, so hold on, okay, right. So I think what is essential is this part here. This one is, I mean, the more crucial one. Okay, about biofuel. Okay, biofuel. You learn about this. This is something new. Okay, recycling of plastic is also something new. So you only see this, you only see questions on these two subtopic from 2024 onwards. So which means that you only have 24, 25. That's it. Okay, 2 years on these two subtopic. Okay, as well as some of the others one like recycling of plastic, some of the issues. Okay, depolymerization. A lot of these are under organic chemistry, which all of you have not learned. So not to worry. Okay, just to let you know that there will be papers whereby there might be some questions that there might be some concepts that are not tested. Okay, but most of the things are still about the same. Okay, so not to worry. So you can just take a screenshot of all this if you want to. Okay, just to let you know there are some things that are new. Okay, not much has been removed actually. Okay, so or rather there's really not yeah, nothing much has been removed, but there are some changes lah, some minor changes. So the most crucial one would be on the biofuel and the recycling of plastics, depolymerization. A lot of these are in organic chemistry. Okay, the rest are more or less the same. It has not really changed. It's just maybe rephrased. Yeah. So that hasn't changed much. Okay. Now, do also take note that for the periodic table, all of you will have received the latest periodic table whereby you have all 118 elements. Okay. So if you receive a periodic table that does not have 118 elements, then that is not the latest. And also, the latest periodic table, the group number are all 1, 2, 13 to 18. That's a mean group element. Okay, the old one will be using these group numbers. Okay, so again, that is from 2023 and before. So when you do practice paper using a TYS, then do expect you will see some of this. Okay, but it's just something minor. Okay, it's a syllabus change, so you just have to learn how to read all these Roman numerals, which you should, because all these are still used for your oxidation state. Okay, so you must know how to read Roman numerals anyway. Okay, just that they change it to 1, 2, the room this numbers lah. Okay. Okay. Now, so for the overview of syllabus, so all of you must of course know your syllabus. If you just started classes for Sec 3 chemistry, okay, then a lot of this will be new. Okay, but to take note that, okay, over the years, the syllabus has changed, not in terms of just the content itself, but questions. Okay, so they do not just want to test you on memorizing, like there's really no point on just memorizing, but a lot more emphasis on understanding what you have learned and how to apply them. Okay, I think overall there's a new direction into understanding and application instead of just rote memorizing. Okay, so that is just for you to know that the questions are changing over and as the time passes lah. Okay, so this one will be for both pure and combined. So there will be two type of assessment objective. First one is knowledge with understanding. Okay, second type is handling information and solving problems. So both have different percentages in a exam paper. Okay, so for knowledge understanding, which includes both recall and simple understanding, so that will be around 45 marks, 45% for a pure chemistry. And those in bracket and underlined are for combined science. So for those who are combined science, take note of that. But most of you are in pure, so take note of the one not in bracket. Okay, so out of the 45%, 15% are for recalling. But even if it's called recalling, right, it's not so easy to go and remember because why? Well, the chemistry, if you look at the number of topics for pure chemistry, is so many. There are so many things to remember. And it tells you 15%, out of 15% of this 45%, and you're supposed to dig through all your memory, what's that thing. Okay, so it's still not that easy, even though it's just a recall question. Okay, so a lot of concepts are interlinked together. That's the thing. Okay, so you need to figure out how to remember some of these concepts. Then other than that, okay, 55% of the total score will be application. Okay, handling information and solving problems. So that's kind of like application. Okay, all the information you have learned, all the concepts, how you apply them to solve problems. Okay, so for questions that are under this assessment objective, okay, for knowledge and understanding, usually the questions are a bit more straightforward, and they will use terms. These are the common words, right? Which I think you are familiar with. Very straightforward ones: define, state, describe, explain, outline. These are for knowledge and understanding. Okay, uh when it's about application, then that will be slightly different. Okay, when it's about those application questions, they will phrase it in different ways, and you will know when they ask you that. Okay, so what are being tested under this assessment objective? So things like definition. They could ask you one definition, like what is relative molecular mass? They could. Okay, and they could ask you to explain some terms. Okay, they could ask you how to use a certain instrument or apparatus. All these are possible, and it has came out before. Okay, scientific quantities, your SI unit, etc. Okay, so all this could be possible. And when it's about the second assessment objective, okay, then there will be a lot more information. Okay, there will be data, table, graph, and so on. So this is very important, right? Because this is 55%. Okay, so definitely, in order to do well for all this application question, okay, you need a lot of practice. And chemistry is not an easy subject. So practice is a must. Okay? You cannot go to an exam hall without practice. Okay? You will not do well. Okay? Now, for practical, this is what they are looking for. Okay, they are looking at these skill areas: planning, manipulation, measurement, and observation, presentation of data, observations, analysis, conclusion. Okay. Of course, all these are just terms. Whenever you all see one of the practical level, you will know what I'm talking about. Okay, for example, some of the sec fours you will have learned about titration, right? So it asks you to present your titration reading. So that's presentation of reading, presentation of data. And from there, you do and do calculation. Okay, if you need to draw a graph, okay, there are some manipulation to do. Okay, so all these measurements are included under titration. And if let's say you want to do QA, qualitative analysis, you want to test for the gas. So all these can be under analysis. Okay, and after you do an experiment, there could be conclusions to do. Okay, what can you conclude? What have you found out is present in your mixture, for example? And there will be questions which are planning. You plan an experiment. Okay, and planning has a weighting of 15%. That is quite a bit. Okay, with planning itself. And this apply to both combined and pure. For combined, it's not so much on the planning. Okay, so combined will be slightly different. So combined, for combined science is paper 5, right? So there'll be one or two compulsory questions, okay, on for each of the sciences. Okay, so in one or two, both questions, you're expected to suggest a modification or extension. That is somewhat like a planning question. The planning question is supposed to plan, right? Okay, not executed. Same thing for peer, right? Planning just means that you plan. You do it on paper, what you want to do, how you want to conduct the experiment. Okay, so does not need to be executed. So this is something like a planning question. Okay, so the number of marks can vary. So it's not fixed depending on the question that they give you. Okay, this is for combined science. Now, hold on, okay. So when you do the experiment, okay, during your practical sessions, they are going to test you on certain things, whether you can follow the instructions, whether you know how to use the apparatus properly, what are the techniques to use, your burette, pipette, all these are being assessed. Okay, whether you can make your observations, make your measurements correctly, whether you can present them properly, okay, and interpret and evaluate observations and experimental results. So once you do your titration, for example, what can you tell? And are you able to, correct your own mistake during the titration? Because for titration, very easy to make mistake. One extra drop, your titration is more or less you need to restart your titration basically because you have exceeded the amount. Okay? So plan investigation is part of planning. Okay, and if possible, sometimes they ask you evaluate some of the methods in your experiment. Okay, whether there's something to improve on. Okay, so these are possible questions that they can ask you during your practical. All right. Now, so just to differentiate, okay, coming back to the theory question, the theory MCQ and multiple MCQ and structured questions or free response question. This is just to show you a difference between the pure chemistry question and a combined science question. So this is a question which applies to pure chemistry students. So pure chemistry students, maybe you can tell me your answer for this MCQ. Okay, I hope somebody give me a response here. Okay, pure chemistry student, are you here? Hello. Okay, maybe you can guess. That's why, right? Uh, Pure chemistry papers are more difficult. Okay, for a combined science student, you may also try. Not all questions are like this. This is a little bit complicated. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's really like fact. And when you do MCQ question, there's always a technique, right? Do elimination. Okay? It's not so easy to really choose one. So the best way is to really do elimination and choose the best one you feel is correct. Okay? Right. Now, so maybe I go through some of these options. Okay? Maybe I look at option B. The pH of a weak acid is higher than the pH of a strong acid of the same concentration. Now, the thing is, weak acid is something like a pH 5. Strong acid, pH maybe 1 or 0. So is the pH higher? Yes, it is higher. So this is correct. But is the explanation correct? Hmm. Okay. So let's look at the explanation. The pH shows the extent of ionization. Okay. The more ionized the acid, the higher the pH. Now this is where it got wrong, right? The more ionized it is, or you can say the greater dissociation, greater extent of dissociation, then it should be more acidic. If it's more ionized, it's more acidic, which leads to a low pH, not a high pH. So therefore, B is out. This is what you need to do, okay? Especially for pure chemistry students, because some of these options are really very close. And if you make a mistake, you will choose the wrong one. Yeah, let's look at C. Calcium hydroxide can be used to control pH. Yes, because it's an alkali, right? Alkali, if the soil is acidic, you can use calcium hydroxide. Yes. Metal hydroxide are acidic. So that's where it's wrong, right? Metal hydroxides are never acidic. Okay, like I said, it's used to reduce the acidity in soil. So it's all wrong. So C is pretty obvious, it's out. For D, when an acid reacts with a metal, the metal is reduced. So let's say, for example, whichever acid reacts with a magnesium, it will become a magnesium, maybe magnesium chloride. Is it a reduction or is it oxidation? So Mg became a Mg2 plus. Okay, this one, the Sec 3 student, maybe you all are not sure about all this. It's okay. Okay, this is more for the Sec 4, just to test them. So electron has been lost to form a 2 plus charge. Okay, so it's not a gain but a loss. So answer is A. So after you have confirmed that B, C, and D are out, okay, then A must be the correct one. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to move on. So I'm going to show you the combined science one. This is what a possible comparison would be, where it is a more straightforward question. Okay, this one I think everyone can give me an answer, right? So maybe can you all try this question, be it pure or combined? You see, all these are O-level paper, right? The last one is also 2022. This one also 2022, but one is for pure, one is for combined. Okay. Any responses? Yes. No worries. Just you can share with me your answer. This is for combined science, but pure science also can try this question. Actually, maybe even Sec 3 students can try this because you have learned acid and bases in Sec 2. Yeah, so this could be a possible Sec 2 question also. Okay, now let's go through quickly, all right? So what we have here, first one, okay, let's do elimination as well. Acids react with metal oxide. Metal oxides are bases. Okay, to form salt and hydrogen. Now that is the problem here. Hydrogen is only produced when acid react with a metal, a reactive metal. Okay, so if acid react with base, it's salt and water. So this is wrong. Okay, so it is out. Alkalis are bases which are insoluble in water. They should be soluble, not insoluble. Neutralization is the reaction between acids and bases. So this is the correct one. But you see, we can confirm that one statement is correct here easily. So between pure and combined, there's a difference here. Combined science will be more straightforward, while pure will require a lot more analysis. But again, that is not for all questions. Okay, I'm just trying to show you a little bit of extremity here. Okay, this is what a difficult question can be. This is what a slightly easier question can be. But pure sciences will also have such question. Okay, just that we did not show that here. Okay, and the last one, potassium hydroxide dissolved in water. And of course, if it's alkali, okay, alkali, it must be red litmus paper, blue. Okay, answer is C. All right. Now let's talk about the syllabus. Now this is what is in the syllabus document. The overall topics. But of course, when you look at your textbook, okay, there are a lot more specific ones lah. Or your school materials, there are a lot more. In my structure materials, there are a lot more topics that are in this. Okay, especially for organic chemistry. Organic chemistry is a very broad topic. Here it just write organic chemistry, but essentially is 3 to 4 topics altogether. Okay, actually I think 4 to 5 topics altogether actually, depending on how you want to break it down. All right, this is for pure chemistry, but if I compare it with combined, can you see? I'm just gonna switch between the slides, huh? Pure, combined, pure, combined. Can you see that they're the same? Then what's the difference? Okay, so the difference here is not just the topic name, topic number, that doesn't really matter. Okay, but what essentially is different is really the depth of the concept. How deep are you learning into this topic? Okay, and how much? So for combined science students, okay, some topics like organic chemistry, you will not learn so deep, you will also not learn so much. So there will be fewer concepts to learn. Okay, so that's the main thing. Lesser in breadth and lesser in depth for combined science. But otherwise, the topic names are more or less the same. Okay, these are the overall big topics. But like I said, we can break it down into smaller ones. So I'll show you what my structure have. This is for Sec 3. So some of you are in Sec 3, right? So at this current moment, sorry, let me see. Okay, at this current moment, I think if you have joined us since November, okay, or let's say you have just joined us, okay, which for Sec 3, we are going to be starting on chemical bonding. This is where we are at this point, somewhere around here in between. Okay, going to chemical bonding. Okay, for combined, is also is around here, kinetic particle theory. Okay, so this is term 1. So for most of you, or rather all of you have just started school, okay, I think the first few chapter will be most likely separation techniques and some of the basic measurement things. Okay, so that will be your topics in school. So this is for, this again will show you what you are learning. Okay, so now in school, right? Okay, I think now is week 2, the start of week 2. Okay, that's why we are at chemical bonding. This is where we are. All right, we are going to week 10. So for combined science, we are learning forces and dynamics. For combined science, for our combined science courses, chem and physics, it's a mixture of chemistry and physics mixed together. Yeah, of course. Okay. so as one course. So the different topics will alternate. Okay, as you can see, it's not totally alternate. Like for example, the first two will be physics, then it was chemistry after that for three. Okay, then we jump to physics, chemistry, physics, chemistry. Okay, P for physics, C for chemistry. Okay, all right. So this is just for you to know what are the upcoming topics. Okay, and subsequently in your school in around week 5 onwards, you will have your WA1. Okay, so you have to see what is being tested for your WA1 and revise for those. All right. For pure science, pure chemistry students, okay, by then we will be teaching more concept. Okay, so you need to see what is tested for in your school, most likely the top few topics until chemical bondings. Okay, some schools might be a bit faster, some schools a bit slower, so it depends. So you have to check what your school give you. All right. Okay, for Sec 4, okay, so just take note. In term 1, we'll be covering ammonia and environment, speed of reaction, electrolysis. So we are somewhere, actually we are starting electrolysis this week. Okay, for combined science, we are starting QA this week. Okay, let me see the next page here. Actually, it's written here. This knows, yeah, we're actually in the midst of QA. Okay, we're in the midst of QA. All right. So now, the pure one will be starting electrolysis. Okay, and the combined science finishing QA. So that is just for you to know. And again, subsequently, WA1. Now, for upper sec, you need to take note what your school wants to test you because they can definitely test you Sec 3 topics, which they will, because all these topics in Sec 3, okay, will be tested for O level. So they will choose topics in Sec 3 to test you as part of your WA1 or maybe even WA, definitely WA2 also. Okay, but some schools, the WA might be different. So depending on what your school wants to test you. Okay, right. Now, we look at how our materials can help you. Like I said at the start, chemistry is not a very easy subject. And I can say every subject is not so easy. There are three sciences. If you let's say if you're taking triple science, okay, it's not a very easy. You're not taking a very easy round, okay? Because if you're taking chemistry, physics, biology, or these are major subjects, they are not so easy, okay? Unless you are really really good at that, okay? But remember now it's just the start of the year. Okay, we have still a lot of time to make sure you improve and make sure you still can do well. Okay, so how can our materials help all of you? Now, do take note that there's a certain sequence in how our materials work. Let's say, okay, because some topics are bigger, some topics are smaller. So if the topic is not a very big topic, it only lasts 1 week. And then this is how our materials are structured. We have the lesson notes to teach the topic. Then you have the concept paper. Concept paper is to recap on what has been taught in the first half of the lesson. Okay. And there will be a practice paper to test out how much the students have understood. Okay, these are the smaller topics which only have one or two. They only last 1 week. Okay, there will be more that are 2 weeks or even more that are 3 weeks. Okay, there is also one that is more than 3 weeks, one or two that are more than 3 weeks. Okay, so if it's a 3 weeks topic, this is what we have. Usually, because it's a bigger topic, we have two lesson notes. It's split into two. Okay, so maybe today I teach you half of the lesson, then we'll proceed to doing some questions. So we'll consolidate what we have learned, and some of these questions in the practice paper could be guided, right? Because we have just learned this topic, right? Then next week, okay, we're going to cover the second half. Same thing is practice paper. Then it might be partially guided. And finally, to finish off what we have learned, The third week, we have a concept paper. So this one will revise what we have learned in the first 2 weeks. So it could be in the form of a crossword puzzle plus some additional fill in the blanks or something. It could be different formats, to help you recap, refresh what you have learned so that you don't forget. Then we'll carry on with the practice paper, which could be more independent. Okay, there will also be more difficult questions in the practice paper 3. The first two will be more basic to intermediate. The third one will be more intermediate to challenging, right? Because as time passes, you should get better and better. So that's why the difficulty. Okay. If it's a 2 weeks topic, okay, then concept paper will be the second week. Okay, so it's a certain order, right? So if let's say it's 2 weeks, right, then basically this part here, x plus 1 doesn't exist. So yeah, lesson notes, practice paper, then the next week will be concept paper and then practice paper. Okay? So for the lesson notes, these are some of the features that we have, and a lot of them are important and very helpful. All right. So usually when we first teach a topic, okay, I'll just go through some of this here. So we have a lesson trigger, which is something, to get the students interested in learning this topic or have a brief idea what this topic is about. So it could be a video, it could be a discussion. All right, that is the lesson trigger. And then when we teach a topic, there's this part on prior knowledge. So the teachers will go through with the students like what are things that you have already know that is related to this topic. Okay, so the teachers can even test you some of these things. Okay, because when we learn a new topic, there might be some prerequisites. Okay, some things that you have learned maybe in Sec 2. If you're in Sec 3, maybe you have learned something in Sec 2, like acids and bases. You have learned that in Sec 2, and the same thing can be applied to Sec 3. Okay, that's prior knowledge. Learning objective, what we are covering for the day. Now, we have definitions. Let's see whether I can find one. Okay, yes. So definitions are highlighted to you in the box, very clearly written. Okay, so some of these definitions you have to remember. For example, isotope, very commonly tested. Do you know how to define an isotope? Okay, for example, relative molecular mass. Do you know how to define relative molecular mass? There are some very common definitions that they test, so you must know how to define them. I'm not asking you to memorize every single one, but those very commonly tested ones. Okay, so we also have notes, common mistake. Did you know some of these important features? Okay, note basically highlight to you what is one important takeaway or something you take notes when you have finished learning this concept. Okay, then we have common mistake. What is a common misconception or mistake that students always make? And then what is the corrected phrase or sentence? Okay, so that is common mistake. So all these are highlighted so that students do not continuously or consistently make the same mistake. Okay. And we also have did you know? Did you know is basically providing some concepts, some knowledge that could be out of the syllabus, or it could be something that is extension. Okay, basically from what you learn, is there something more that is good for you to know? All right. Sometimes it could be a video, it could be some information. Okay, it could be a link to maybe an article. Okay, so all these are possible. And at the end of each lesson note, we have key concept, which sums up all the important concepts that you need for this topic. Okay, so let's say if you're doing a revision paper, and then you can refer to these key concepts because it sums up everything. Okay, we have maybe 12 points that you need to know for this topic. Okay, so make use of that during your revision so that you don't need to go flip page by page, right, for each individual. But of course, if you need to refer to diagrams, then try have to flip. Okay? Hold on, I missed out. Okay, so in our lesson notes, we also have videos, definitely, right? Because for chemistry, in my structure, we don't have all those hands-on activity, but there are a lot of videos that can be very helpful, okay, especially for those practicals. Okay. We also have work examples, which are part of all the materials here. So some examples are given to you, like how do you draw dot and cross diagram? Good, these are work examples, right? Okay, in terms of practice paper, so just now I have briefly I have given you an idea what's our how our practice papers are structured. We could have practice paper one, two, or even three. So there will be varying difficulty levels from the easier ones to the more difficult ones. Okay, for the simpler, just basic recall question to application questions. Okay, so all these are O-level questions because just now I showed you, right? And I also told you that in MCQ, some of the questions are difficult, but there are also questions which are easier. Okay, so take note of that. It's okay if there are some questions that you face difficulty in, because with time, with practice, you have tried all these difficult questions, and then when you come to exam or test question, okay, you have experience doing it, it's not a problem. Okay, you have gotten used to answering them. Okay, for chemistry, a lot of it is about practice. You must have enough practice, enough exposure to a lot of application questions. And there are some topics whereby the answers are very straightforward, or the answers have a standard templates, like chemical bondings. How do you explain for the high melting point for diamond? For those pure chemistry students. Oh, okay, maybe I use a simpler. How do you explain for the low melting point or low boiling point for carbon dioxide? It's all very standard answers. So all you need to do is to maybe go through it, go through the answering technique, write it down a few times, it becomes muscle memory. Do you need to memorize? Not really. Once you have written it like 5 times, it becomes very easy to write, not memorizing it. Okay? Right, so what you have in the practice paper, like I said, there are O-level questions, O-level standard questions. So all these could be possible questions that can be tested in the exam. Okay? So just to give you a brief idea what it looks like. All right. We also have a planning question in our paper. We also have graph question in our paper. We have calculations. Right. Chemistry, the main topic with calculation is more concept. And that is very important. That's a very important topic learned in Sec 3. Okay, so make sure you master that topic because more concept is uh is calculations for reaction. Is a calculation topic for reactions, all types of reactions, which means that it can be applied to all the different topics. Okay? So it's a very important topic because they can test you any concept but give you a calculations after that. It can be linked to many topics. Okay. Now, so just now I talked about the concept paper. Concept paper is the one where we consolidate the learning. Okay, like I said, it could be fill in the blanks, crossword puzzle, tables, etc. Examples like this. Fill in the blanks. Okay, especially for electricity. Okay, for those Sec 4, okay, you will see something like this coming up soon. Okay, you see this circuit. Once you see this, you'll be scared. No lah. Okay, electrolysis is not an easy topic. Okay, but with enough practice, you will understand how it works. Okay, once you have understood how it works, okay, it's not that difficult. Okay, homework booster. Okay, I think for those who are much younger students here, okay, this is something new. So everyone has a homework booster every week. Why we put this here? Because I can tell you the weekly materials will not be enough for you to score your A1. I mean, I hope they can. Okay, but if let's say you really need extra practice, now this is where you can go to. Okay, but to highlight this is for homework booster is really for your own practice. It's not covered in class. Okay, so once you do it at home, you can refer to the solutions online. Okay, you'll be recording. All right. So these are examples. Basically, it can take in different forms. It could be MCQ, it could be drawing, structured questions, free response. It could be any form. Okay, so all these are extra homework. Now, So how can we further support you? So I will show you how our materials can actually help you. The lesson notes, the concept paper, how the practice paper, what is in the practice paper. And on top of that, of course, as we are nearing the exam, we will have revision. Okay? So for Sec 4, you'll finish learning the topics by mid-year. Then subsequently, it will be all drilling, revision. Okay, we will also revise the Sec 3 topic. Okay, so you can see, right? We have Sec 3 Term 3 revision. We have end of year exam, end of year revision. We also have Sec 4 last lab. So helps the Sec 3 and Sec 4 all together. Okay, so if let's say now you have joined us for Sec 4, but maybe some of your Sec 3 topics are not so strong yet, okay, you still face difficulty, okay, not to worry. Now, you finish learning the Sec 4 topics well. If you have questions, check with your teachers, and subsequently we will proceed with the Sec 3 revision. Okay? So it's not that we are not going back. Okay, we will cover those Sec 3 topics. Okay, so rest assured, if let's say during that revision period you still have a lot of questions, make sure you consult your teachers. Okay, don't wait until the last minute. Okay, but this is what we are doing in MyStretcher. On your own, you must have your own revision plan, especially when you are in Sec 4. Okay, you have 1 year to master all your Sec 3 topics as well as what you're going to be learning for the year, for at least half the year. Okay, most of your schools should finish teaching your Sec 4 topics by mid-year or around there. Okay, and a lot of schools tend to rush the Sec 4 topics because you can see we have a lot of topics to cover, and a lot of schools somehow lah, okay, based on my experience when I have taught the Sec 3 and Sec 4 classes for many years already. A lot of schools will tend to teach the Sec 3 a bit slower for some reason. And then I have students telling me, wow, Cher, the school teach very slow, no. They have not, some of them are very surprising. Some of them, they haven't learned like essay and basics in Sec 3. I'm like, what's the school doing? Very slow. Okay, very surprising. And then sometimes they will tell you, this topic you're going to self-study on your own. And that's it, no? There will be one topic, I think especially the topic on periodic table, where we learn about group 1, group 17. There are schools who just tell the student, okay, go and read up in the SSL, right? Is that what you're called, right? SSL, right? Learn it on your own, self-study. So they will skip one topic and then they continue. That's how they catch up with the time, right? Okay, so they will cram some of these topics in Sec 4. So Sec 4 will be quite a rush. That's why it's good that a lot of you have already joined us in MyStretcher. We have taught more topics in Sec 3. Okay, and in Sec 4, it's not so cramped anymore. Okay, so we try to cover at a much comfortable pace and ahead of school. Okay, so it's very important because the school tend to rush when the Sec 4 starts, which is not so good because some topics like electrolysis, organic chemistry are quite complicated. Okay, so good that you all have joined our classes. Okay, so subsequently, actually, this week we are starting electrolysis, so it's very important you attend your electrolysis classes. All right, and our revision paper also includes database questions. Database questions are like English comprehension, something like that. What I mean by that is they give you a passage, or they give you some graph, some data, and then you're supposed to extract information from there to answer your questions. Of course, some of the concepts that you know will still be tested, but a lot of it is testing you whether you can analyze what is given to you. Can you interpret what they have given you? Okay, can you do this application? Are you able to apply what you have learned? Okay, that is a database question. And it's a compulsory question in O-level, so don't think that you can skip that. All right, so take note of that. So all these are also included in our practice. Okay. Now, as mentioned earlier, for practical skills, usually for practical, there are a few topics that are tested, especially titration and qualitative analysis QA. Okay, so we have some specific weeks that tackle practical directly, or no, we have a hard focus on these practical skills. So we have practical notes. We tell you how to draw your graph. We tell you how to conduct your titration, how to record your data, record your observation, all this. All these are covered in that few weeks. Okay? So do take note of that. We also possibly have some workshop on these practicals. So do take note of that and look out for the MyStretcher events. Okay? All right. So practical part, this part I have covered earlier on. So this is what you will expect. Right? For example, uh, titration. We will tell you what are the things to take notes, give you some clues, some tips, some strategy, what you should do. Okay, and then we have a video to show you how to do it. So we don't do it like uh on the spot, but we watch the video, and anytime all this video you can watch it online. You can YouTube it. Okay, if you need a refresher before your practical exam, all these links are given to you. Okay, so feel free to save them, no bookmark them so that you can watch it again. And then always do a mental training. Okay, mental training is very important. I'll give you an example. Okay, I drive a car, for example, and maybe your parents drive a car, right? I don't know whether your parents have a difficulty doing parallel parking, for example, or maybe here we have parents here, right? Maybe have a difficulty doing parallel parking. And what I do is I have seen videos before. What's the technique to do parallel parking? And I just visualize in my brain, okay, what do I need to take note of? And I just do go through that a few times, a few times. Okay, I do it repeatedly. And when I just do it on my own, it just works. Likewise, for chemistry practical, right? You want to do titration. What are the steps? Okay, go through in your head. Okay, what do you need to do? And then when you do it, it will not be a problem because you have constantly mentally drilled it in your head. Okay, so it's important to do mental training also, especially for these practicals, because we will not have that much practice. Even in schools, you don't have that much practice for these practicals. Okay, so all these videos will be very helpful and we provide to you the links. Okay. Okay, so these are just examples of what it could look like. Okay, so we are not able to give you the direct readings, the physical one. Okay, but we give you an example of how it could look like. Okay, and then you take the readings from what you can see. So it's very similar to the real thing, just that you don't need to conduct the experiment, which makes it easier, but you still get to practice the skill of recording down and no data manipulation, etc. For QA, okay, we'll tell you what to do, what's the test to do, and you write down the observation. This one will be on your own. Okay, for some of these, we even have videos to show you. Okay, and from the video, you can record the observations. So just as though you have done the experiment and the video shows you what you have done. So what do you see from there? So it's in a way helping you to, it's still helping you in terms of your practical skills. Okay, what you can observe from your experiment. Okay. Now, of course, just to inform you, like for the year, what do we have to know as a checkpoint to test how much you have mastered your topics? So we have the mid-year checkpoint. We also have the end of year checkpoint for Sec 3. For Sec 4, we have the prelim exam. Prelim exam will be slightly earlier than the end of year checkpoint for Sec 3. Okay, because the O-level exams are slightly earlier. Okay, sometime end October to early November, right? Okay, so the prelim exam will be slightly earlier, sometime in early August. Okay, and once we finish the prelim exam, then there will be review of the paper and continuous drilling, the final prep for the actual prelim exam. Right, because your school also have a prelim exam, right? So this prelim exam is for your school prelim exam. And then from there, you are ready for your O-level exam. Okay, so just to let you know, we have 2 checkpoints for the year. All right. So finally, it's gonna be it's not gonna be an easy year, but with enough practice, enough a proper routine, a proper revision plan, okay, you can do well, definitely. Okay, but it's a matter of how disciplined you are. Okay, you cannot be always scrolling your TikTok Okay, I have learned this phrase that you don't go and scroll your TikTok, then your score also TikTok downwards. Okay, that's what I learned from my boss. Okay, so other than that, main thing is whenever you go for exam paper, go for exams or tests, okay, of course you must know what you are weak in and focus on that. Okay, focus on those topics that are weak in. You don't go and practice like atomic structure, which are like very basic things that you should have mastered it at the start of Sec 3. Okay, so go and practice on other things that are more difficult. All right, so Sec 3 topics, more concept, acid reaction, all these are related to what you need to learn for Sec 4. Definitely. Okay, don't forget, for Sec 4 students, don't forget what you have learned in Sec 3. Everything is tested. Okay? And like I said, some of these topics like mole concept can be tested for all the different topics, even for organic chemistry. Okay, so they can plug in the mole concept calculation question in under organic chemistry because mole concept is for all types of reactions. Okay? Now, I will say this thing, it applies to some students, but not all students can appreciate this, but you can try. Now, sadly, the holiday has passed, but okay, you still have some time. Now it starts the start of the year, right? So spend some time, go through all your Sec 3 Sec 3 topics, topic by topic. Go and make yourself some notes. Because when you make all these notes, be it inside an exercise book or whichever, you want to use a drawing board also can, whichever works for you. Or some of you, okay, I think nowadays a bit more high tech, right? Okay, you all use your iPad. Yeah, go ahead. Make your notes on your own. Okay, last year actually, the last O-level exam, I have this student very diligent. She showed me all the digital notes making. And that, wow, I was very impressed by what she has done. Like everything was so neat and nice, but I cannot take hers lah. It's hers one. Yeah, it's very nice. I cannot use it to put in my structured materials. Okay, but she made her own notes, and I think because she made her own notes, she knows where each of the concepts are, what are the things to highlight, what are the things that she doesn't know so well, and she noted it down. So all these are important. Okay. And if let's say there are certain concepts that they're not so strong, you feel there's an issue trying to remember, note it down. Because if you don't note it down, 1 month later you have forgotten, what was the thing that I didn't know? Then you cannot be searching all your one whole year of material finding for that one concept that you have forgotten. So all these things that you have trouble with, note it down. Get the concepts right first. Master the concepts fully, then go and do a lot of application questions. Because if your conceptual knowledge is not so strong, then no matter how many application type question you do, you will not get the full marks because your concepts are not strong. Okay? So very important, must get the concepts right. Do you fully understand how it works? Okay? Do you know how to phrase your answer? So you must repeatedly go through your corrections. Don't do correction and then shelf your worksheets. That's it. Then that will be the end of that worksheet. It's going to be there, and after exam, it's still there. It has not shifted. And then after exam, okay, O level finish, throw. Then there was no point at all. So all this correction that you all have done, note down some of the important things. Make sure you spend time to go and revise. Okay? And of course, when you all do your questions for exams to prepare for your WA, prelim, or whichever, okay, always read your question carefully. There will be text there will be hints that are given to you in the questions. There will be clues. Okay, so read it carefully. Now, so some of you may be asking, how do you practice? What is the strategy? Okay, so please do not go and do a yearly TYS. You might have bought the topical one and the yearly one, and maybe you have some school prelim papers which you can actually download or your school gave you. Don't do those first because those are like the final practice when you have the time trial. Okay, is you go and time yourself how much you can do for that one whole paper. Make sure you master the topics like I said first. Like I said, okay, do the topical first. Make sure you master the topic before you attempt the actual exam papers, the prelim papers, because that is when you test yourself how much you can do, how well you can do, and whether you have done it within the time limit. Okay, you see, take note like for MCQ, you have 1 hour. You need to time yourself. How much time do you have for each question? You have 1 hour, but you have 40 MCQs. And if let's say every MCQ was like that question earlier on, that question you could spend the 2 minutes, and that's too long already. Okay? But there will be questions like this where you need to spend more time. But like I mentioned, there will be some which are easier, which you might spend less than a minute. So plus minus. Okay, but you must know roughly each question is about how long. So 60 minutes, 40 MCQ, which means that each MCQ about 1.5 minutes, plus minus. If there are easier questions, okay, maybe 30 seconds you can finish that question. Then there will be other difficult questions. Okay, not to forget, you need to check your answer and still need to shade your OAS. Okay, so be very careful of your time management. All right, uh, for structured questions, definitely you must be very careful. First thing, identify the topic or the concepts. I think that one is for sure, right? You must know what is the question asking. Like, if it's obviously an acid and base question, okay, mentally know that, okay, start bringing out all your acid reaction. Sometimes the answer can be 3, 4 lines. Then you have to plan. How are you going to explain? Okay, how are you going to explain? If the question is on metal reactivity, okay, I have students who always make mistake on metal reactivity and the metal car the thermal stability of metal carbonates. They always phrase it in the wrong way, right? Like for example, magnesium carbonate is more reactive than calcium carbonate. The phrasing is wrong. Okay, so your answer could be like calcium carbonate is more stable than magnesium carbonate. Okay, reactivity is when we compare between metals. Like calcium is more reactive than magnesium. So you will form a more stable calcium carbonate as compared to magnesium carbonate. So that is how you phrase it. Okay, so that's why all these techniques you all need to note it down in a notebook. Okay, so when you mentally think of your answer, okay, then you will plan your answers nicely before you start writing it down. Otherwise, it gets very messy and you do not have a proper structure. Okay. Now, so I just want to show you one possible way to make your notes. Okay, this is for Sec 3 topic for chemical bonding, and I think this is one of the easiest topic to go and make your personal your self-study notes. Okay, because a lot of answers are standard template answers. Okay, you don't go and copy from your notes in the point form. Write your notes in different ways. You want to use mind maps, you want to use tables, okay, you want to use I don't know, whichever suits you. Okay? Instead of everything bullet points. It may work for some, may not. But this is just one example of how you can do it. Okay? So let's say you have the 4 different type of bonding. Write out the structure name. What are the structures called? Giant ionic lattice structure, simple molecular structure. Okay? Then the properties of each of these, right? Okay, so the properties, high melting and boiling point or low melting and boiling point. Then how do you explain for that? Okay, what is needed for the explanation? Okay, small amount of energy. That's the first part. What is the attractive forces? Weak intermolecular force of attraction between the molecules. So all these phrases must be there. Okay, and you can see it's always the same phrasing, no matter which molecule they give you, ammonia, carbon dioxide, the answer is the same. Okay, so these are standard answers that all of you must know. All right, so you can make your own notes and then you write it a few times, 5 times, 6 times. I can tell you this becomes very easy. In O-level exam, they are not going to give you, okay, maybe they could, but less likely to give you like 2 marks just asking you to write this. No, they will be asking you to compare, why is the melting point of diamond different from that of oxygen? Then you need to write both, and that could be 3 marks maybe. It depends, or maybe it could be just 2 marks. Okay, so I'm just telling you what are the possible ways to make your notes and make sure they're useful to you. Okay, don't write already, but at the end of the day, it's not so useful. Okay, do it in a way whereby it helps you. And Wherever you do your corrections, note down some of the things that you always make mistake with, or what the common mistakes you have, common misconception you have, or things that are always difficult for you, or things that you're going to consult your teachers with. Okay, so take note of all this and go and ask your teachers. Do not wait until the last minute. Wait until your mid-year come ready, then you go and start asking. That's a bit late. Okay, don't wait. Okay, just do it. Because as you drag, you will forget. Okay? Right. And of course, electrical conductivity. Okay, so make it complete for your revision notes. Okay? All right. So I think that's about all for my sharing. Okay, so hope all these tips and strategies have been useful for you. But anyone has any question, just let us know. Okay, you can put your question in the chat. Anybody? Or you can raise your hands. I think, yeah, you just raise your hand or put in the chat. Does anyone has any question? No? All right. If there are no questions, okay, thank you for joining us this evening. Okay, I hope you have got, okay, let me see. Okay. Thanks, Bala. Okay, I hope all of you have learned something about what's coming up for you in this year, and you have learned some, tips and strategies to help you uh learn your chemistry and do well and ace your chemistry, basically. Okay. So good luck to everyone, and I hope to see all of you guys in our subsequent events as well. Okay, which can be very helpful. Okay, we have topical revision and bootcamps and all. Okay, so do take note of all these events coming up. Okay, to check out the Math Treasure websites. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you.